What is up, guys? It is Joe. We are back, and believe it or not, we are not talking ball about basketball today. We are talking some football. There's been a lot of news on the gridiron recently that's going to talk about with the spring transfer portal window. It's been a minute since I've talked about football just because there's been so much news in the basketball transfer portal. But today, you saw the thumbnail, you see the title. We are talking about a possible reunion between Dylan Edwards and Kansas State. I'm going to give you all my thoughts and more, but before I do, let me tell you this. If you like the channel, if you like K-State football, K-State basketball, or you just like hearing people talk ball about the Cats, this YouTube channel might be for you. Go ahead and consider taking a few seconds out of your day to hit that subscribe button. It does help me out immensely, and I appreciate each and every one of you who does. But guys, let's jump right into Dylan Edwards. Now, I've seen some mixed reviews. Some people are anti-Dylan Edwards. Some people are pro-Dylan Edwards. I think there's two separate sides of the argument. One being, how do certain people in the fan base feel about Dylan Edwards, and how do certain people view Dylan Edwards? Those are two different things. I think that Dylan Edwards is a tremendous football player. I mean, you see the explosion. You saw it in the freshman season with Colorado. I'll read you his stats here now. 76 carries for 321 yards and a score, and then obviously a talented pass catcher as well with 36 grabs for just under 300 yards with 299. And 4 touchdowns in his freshman season, a total. Well, actually, I don't really want to do that math off the top of my head. Maybe 620 is what we're going to. 299 plus 321. I don't know. That's the off the top of the head. So if my math's wrong, I apologize. Guys, I'm going to stake my claim now. I am all for the Dylan Edwards reunion. I understand that some people are like, well, no, he decommitted. He did this. He did this. He did this. I'm not too worried about that, man. I understand the idea of being a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid, making a choice, trying to, do your own thing. And obviously, maybe it wasn't the cleanest exit from Manhattan. I'm not trying to say it was or go to bat for that, but you understand that the kid is now open to his options, understanding what is best for me, and he's at least considering the Cats and vice versa. Now, I think K-State does play a lot of role in this if they want to go down that road because they do have another talented running back on campus right now from Utah State, so there's something else to consider, but you pair together 3 of college football's best players in Avery Johnson from Wichita, or outside of Wichita, obviously Mays. You get Dylan Edwards from Derby, and then you get DJ Giddens from Junction City. Those 3 in the backfield, and obviously Avery's under center, but the 3 of those dudes creates an absolute nightmare situation for any defensive coordinator. Think about the idea of DJ Giddens running through every dude on the field's face. DJ, hey man, 20 carries a game. Here you go, DJ, it's your time. And then you get Dylan Edwards with 5 or 6 touches a game in the run game. And then you also get him on a couple of different swing patterns and, put him in the slot, give him a little bit of everything, get him the football 5 to 10 times a game. You have one of the toughest offenses to stop in the country. You want to load the box against DJ, then you have Dylan Edwards in the slot. You have Dylan Edwards on the other side. Like, you're going to have to match one of these guys up with a linebacker, and neither of them can be stuck with in one-on-one coverage. I mean, DJ has been significantly more impressive than I think a lot of people believed in terms of the pass-catching game, but the talent with Dylan Edwards you cannot pass on. That dude is too talented, and understandably, that also means he has a lot of interests and a lot of people that are interested in him. The 6 teams that are seriously considering Dylan Edwards and the ones that were announced by On3s. I think it was Hayes Fawcett this morning that talked about it. These 6 teams included for Dylan Edwards as possible landing spots are Ole Miss, UCLA, Texas A&M, the Georgia Bulldogs, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and Kansas State. Now, first things first, Georgia stands out because they're Georgia. I mean, that is Georgia, but I really do not see him going anywhere else than Kansas State. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. Maybe I'm being too naive, but I think there's an element of, hey, I went to Colorado. I did it my way. I went to Boulder. And obviously I showed talent. I showed my ability. I know who I am as a player. But for whatever reason, whether it be the coaching decisions or whether it be, depth chart things, or maybe, Dylan was feeling more like, my talents aren't being utilized the right way here. I'm going to go somewhere else. What's the change when you come from a team that has been criticized of being like too social media heavy or too like over the top about that type of stuff? And I'm not saying that that's, what I think. I'm just saying that's what's been reported to an extent of people kind of criticizing Deion Sanders, criticizing Colorado for that. I mean, recently you had guys like Cormani McClain at the portal. I mean, there's a bunch of people at the portal, but Cormani McClain on his way out basically said, I want to play for a real program. I want to play for something serious, and I don't want to play for clicks. That's all I'm saying is that's been the knock on Colorado. The correction from that is you go to a no BS locker room. You go to one with established leaders and a coach that's not going to mess around. That's Chris Kleiman. I mean, Chris Kleiman is the least dramatic dude out there. Like, in terms of coaching, you don't walk into the K-State locker room expecting Coach Kleiman to be throwing a fit. Like, that's just not the way it goes. And I'm not trying to say that, Georgia that happens, Ole Miss that happens, UCLA that happens, or Nebraska. But I understand what gets you from point A to point B. And I think if you're not feeling things at Colorado, they're over-recruiting you, they're doing XYZ stuff, it makes sense that you hit the portal, okay? Then you look at, okay, what are my options? What do I want? Well, there's been reports, and I can't confirm the logistics of it, but Dylan Edwards wasn't necessarily happy with his usage or his carries, so I want to go somewhere that eventually the backfield is mine. However, I also understand that I am transferring, so it's not like just going to be a golden gift of, hey, if I want to go somewhere desirable, it's not just going to be my backfield. Eventually, I have to work for that. And there's kind of this narrative that Dylan Edwards is kind of like he's not a hard worker. He's not some XYZ person. I think the dude's a hard worker, man. He wants to be a part of a locker room. He wants to win football games and compete. I mean, that's what the love of the game comes from. And you see the opportunity to do that at Kansas State. Georgia, I get why Georgia is interested. I get why you're interested in Georgia. The only thing is, if you're not happy with your carries, does it make sense to go to a place that's going to recruit the best player at every single position for the next 5 classes? I mean, I'm not trying to criticize the kid's decision, but that's kind of my idea. Georgia, you're going to have a 5-star kid at every single position. It's kind of the Duke basketball idea or the Kentucky basketball. Obviously, that's changed a little bit, but that's the narrative with that. Nebraska, they're Nebraska. Even when they have a good team, they're still not very good. A&M is interesting because they have a lot of money. It's still a first-year head coach. You're not necessarily proven. Ole Miss, UCLA, yeah, I guess. But I feel like it's going to be really, really tough for Edwards to sit down and look at the list of teams and say, do I want to get back with my dog who I played Pee Wee football with, who I know is going to be a Heisman-type candidate who's going to bring a ton of different eyes to Manhattan? Do I want to play for a head coach like Chris Kleiman who's just put guys into the NFL consistently? Look what he's done with DJ already. Also, you have to respect DJ Giddens because, look, the dude is an established back. He's going to be one of the best backs in the country. He's a serious Doak Walker contender. But I don't think Dylan Edwards steps in saying, okay, this guy doesn't deserve XYZ thing. I don't think that's the vibe, man. I think you sit behind Dylan Edwards. Sit is a vague word, but you're technically the team's running back 2 right now. That would be what Dylan Edwards steps in as. That being said, smart coaches aren't going to look at it as, okay, here's our option number 1. This is our option number 2. Smart coaches get talented players to football. That's the way this stuff goes. Chris Kleiman, Matt Wells. I mean, you got Connor Riley. You have guys that understand the game of football. I don't think anybody looks at that and says, okay, if DJ's on the field, Dylan's got to be out. That's just not the way it goes. So you look at it and say, well, DJ's in the backfield. You have Dylan Edwards offset to Avery's left hip or whatever you want to say, or he's in the slot. Think about how many talented players you can put on the offensive side of the ball. That's what this comes down to. So Dylan Edwards, I know he's going to get the flack of well, look what he did the first time around. Is he going to be loyal? Guys, I don't know that I look at it that way. I think you trust your instincts. If Avery Johnson's calling for the kid, go get the kid, man. Obviously, there's a certain extent where it's well, we don't see it the same way. We can't get on the same page or NIL stuff doesn't line up or whatever the case is. But from what I understand, if you can go and add a player with hometown roots, with connections to, okay, I want to get to the league. I want to do it the right way. I want to play the game the right way. And I want to win, man. I want to compete. Go join Kansas State. They're already a perennial college football playoff contender with Avery Johnson under center. You go and add that, those odds shoot way up. You become the Big 12's favorite if you're not already, and that's a close battle between you and Utah. And the other positive I should mention, too, before I get out of here, is that DJ Giddens isn't going to be a guy that's there for 5-6 years. He's not going to be someone that's going to take the bulk of carries for the next 5-6 years. You're going to have your spotlight because DJ Giddens is going to be an NFL running back. I mean, he's going to be a top 90 pick. He's a pro. You get the opportunity to be developed by Brian Anderson, who has consistently done great work with backs. And you see the work history that he has with Deuce Vaughn. You see what happened with Deuce in Manhattan. You fit the skill set. You have those abilities. You can be that player at Kansas State. So I understand that it's going to be a dramatic process. I'm not saying that Dylan Edwards is going to be dramatic about it or anything like that, but I understand that fans are going to be hurt for a little bit until this guy commits to Kansas State or does whatever he does. It is going to clear up because I think the kid's back on the right path, and I think he understands, hey, where are my next moves? What's the best thing for me? I get to go be with Avery. No one's going to stop that backfield. I mean, shoot, if they load the box for me, Avery's scrambling on the outside. You have talented receivers around you. That's a locker room that's going to get NFL looks every single game. So I think the fit makes sense. I think if you have the opportunity to add a home run hitter, why wouldn't you toss him in the lineup? I mean, that's the way you want to go. And you get the opportunity to learn with a guy like DJ. He's an unproblematic back. I think I've heard DJ say a total of 7 words when he's not interviewed, just in social media clips. So you understand, hey, this is a guy that learned from Deuce Vaughn. I get to learn from him, and we move forward together. I think there's good things there. And then Dylan Edwards takes over the backfield as a junior, and he's one of the best backs in the Big 12 Conference immediately. I think that feels too perfect for me not to come true. I think the kid returns to Manhattan. I don't have any sources. I don't have any inside ideas on this, but I just like the fit. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'd be excited to see that reunion between both K-State and Dylan Edwards. But I will keep you guys updated as I hear something. Obviously, that's a good list of teams interested, so it's not going to be an easy recruitment by any means, but I have faith in the staff. I have faith in QB1. I think Avery Johnson gets things done with Dylan Edwards, and I think Dylan becomes a Wildcat. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but that's how I feel. I will stake my claim. I'm a Dylan Edwards guy, and I'm excited to see what happens. But that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to talk about this idea real quick. Things could change by the time you're seeing this, so if this is all out-of-date information, I apologize. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys watching. I will talk to you soon. Go Cats!